Hello, I'm Dr. Judy Ho, and welcome to Mental Health Bites. In this podcast, we'll cover timely topics related to mental health, answer your burning questions, and leave you with a quick, actionable tip to improve your mental wellness. So let's get to the timely topic of the day. Today, we're going to be talking about burnout. As you may have heard, rates of burnout are rising among employed individuals in the United States and all parts of the world. A recent survey states that 70 to 80% of people felt burnt out most or all of the time. That is a huge statistic, everyone. When you think that three-quarters or more of the working population is feeling burned out at least some of the time, if not most or all of the time, that has huge consequences, not only for your mental wellness, but also for how you relate to others, how you enjoy your time, even when you're away from work, and your overall mental and physical well being. So, what is burnout? Burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged stress, particularly in the workplace. And it's typically characterized by three main components. The first one is emotional exhaustion. This refers to feelings of being emotionally drained and depleted of emotional resources. Individuals experiencing emotional exhaustion feel overwhelmed, unable to cope, and often describe feeling worn out or used up. This component reflects the stress aspect of burnout, where people feel they can't give any more of themselves emotionally. The second aspect is depersonalization, or sometimes seen as a cynicism towards your work and, in general, your life. Depersonalization involves developing a more cynical attitude towards your job and the people associated with it. People may become detached and develop a callous or indifferent attitude towards their work and colleagues. And this can manifest as negative, sarcastic thoughts and a general lack of enthusiasm or distancing from your job. The third aspect is reduced personal accomplishment. This component involves feelings of incompetence and a lack of achievement and productivity at work. Individuals may feel they're not performing well and become dissatisfied with their accomplishments. No matter what they do, it just doesn't feel like they're measuring up and the bar keeps moving. The sense of inefficacy and failure further perpetuates the burnout cycle and leads to even more decreased motivation and productivity. So, all of these three different components can affect people differently. You can feel like your burnout consists of all three, or maybe just of one component. But why are burnout rates increasing? Well, there's several explanations. One, the COVID pandemic has definitely introduced an additional stressor related to burnout. Even though now we're a few years past the height of the pandemic, people are still really struggling to find productivity, to find a new way of working. Many people are working still somewhat from home or at least virtually, and that's decreasing their time to be able to connect meaningfully with their coworkers and to stay connected to their job. Two, additional stressors are rising around us. There's more political unrest. There's seemingly more and more stressors we're dealing with, not only worldwide, but here in America. People are just constantly talking about the stressors of everyday life. And the media is definitely also contributing to that because there's so much negative news coverage that you just feel like your attention is split all the time and that people can't truly concentrate at work, even when they're there. They sometimes just feel like they're distracted by all of this negativity. And then they might even get into some doom scrolling, which further takes away from their productivity. Thirdly, I think that burnout also is reflective of the increased loneliness that people are feeling. You may have heard this term that we're in a loneliness epidemic. And what this means is that more and more people are saying they feel lonely, even when they're around people, even if they reside in a community or with family members. And that really speaks to the quality of their connections with people. Perhaps they are with a lot of people, but they don't feel like those relationships are deep or meaningful. And that can contribute to a feeling of loneliness, which makes it harder for you also to concentrate at work and to find your work meaningful. Those are just some of the top reasons for why burnout may be increasing, but I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are about why burnout is increasing among our workforce and also what we can do about it. Now let's move on to our Q&A segment. Today's question comes from Travis. Travis lives in Ohio, and Travis says, how do I know that the symptoms that I'm experiencing is burnout or depression? It seems that the two types of phenomenons have overlapping symptoms. Well, Travis, you're absolutely right. So, first of all, people who are prone to burnout or experience burnout more often are more at risk for clinical depression. And oftentimes there could be some signs that overlap. Some of the signs that overlap are disturbed sleep, a feeling of fatigue, feelings of worthlessness and low self esteem, loss of interest in activities you used to enjoy, and also a sense of sadness or mood changes. So, all of those things are both signs of clinical depression as well as signs of prolonged burnout. But one of the ways that you can check whether or not this is both burnout and depression, or it's just burnout, is whether or not you think it meets these criteria for a clinical condition. One is you're feeling significantly distressed by the way that you're feeling and behaving. And two, it's actually negatively impacting your functioning in one or more important areas of your life. That could include your job, but it could also include relationships, your activities of daily living, your friendships, and so on. If you feel like one of those two conditions applies to you, then you may have clinical depression. Another thing that you want to be aware of is that clinical depression means that you've been feeling this way, having at least 5 of the 9 symptoms usually associated with depression for 2 weeks or more in a pretty consistent way. If it's kind of a day to day thing where you have some of these symptoms and they go away for a few days and they come back for a day or two, it may not be clinical depression. If you are in doubt at any time, just check in with a local mental health professional who can help provide a proper diagnosis as well as offer a helpful treatment plan. Best of luck to you. Now it's time for the actionable tip of the day. So, given that burnout rates are on the rise, what can we do about it? How can we reduce our own risk of burnout? Or if it's already happening to us, how do we lessen its negative impact? Well, self care is the antidote to preventing and managing burnout. Now, self care has been something that has been in the vocabulary for a long time. You may see it in articles, people may talk about it. If you see a therapist, your therapist might talk about it. But nevertheless, can you believe that only about 6% of Americans actually do self care on a daily basis? And self care is not something that is luxurious. It's not something that is a luxury in any way that you only get to do when you're on vacation. Self care is essential to your mental and physical well being, and it's going to help you to be a more productive person. So don't feel guilty about self care. And remember, only two things have to happen for it to be self care. One is that it's an intentional act of caring for yourself, and two, that it's planned, that it's something that you know and you're registering that you're doing for your own well being. And that's it. Self care on a busy day can be something that's under 2 or 3 minutes. When you have the luxury of more time, you can certainly take a more prolonged approach to your self care activity for the day, but that is not necessary for it to have the benefits. So, one way that I like to talk about self care is to think about the 6 categories of self care. There's physical self care, emotional self care, mental self care, social self care, spiritual self care, and finally, practical self care. So, what does all of this mean? Let me give you some examples. For physical self care, this involves taking care of your body to make sure it remains healthy and strong, like regular exercise, a balanced diet, adequate sleep, proper hydration, and making sure that you're attending to your medical appointments. Emotional self care focuses on understanding and nurturing your emotional needs. It includes activities like expressing your feelings, journaling, practicing self compassion, setting boundaries, seeking therapy, and engaging in activities that bring joy and relaxation. Emotional self care helps in managing stress, improving mood, and fostering emotional resilience. Mental self care involves activities that stimulate your mind and enhance your cognitive function. Examples include reading, solving puzzles, learning a new skill, engaging in creative activities, and also practicing mindfulness or meditation. Mental self care helps in maintaining a mental sharpness and reduces stress and promotes a sense of accomplishment. Social self care focuses on building and maintaining healthy relationships. It includes spending time with loved ones, participating in shared interested activities, seeking support from friends and family, and doing things that will involve other people who are meaningful to you. Social self care provides a sense of belonging, emotional support, and strengthens your relationships while also reducing loneliness. Spiritual self care involves activities that nurture your spirit and provide a sense of purpose and meaning. For some people, that might involve prayer or going to church, but it could also involve practices such as meditation, spending time in nature, reflecting on your personal values. Those are all important examples of spiritual self care. And spiritual self care helps in finding inner peace, enhancing self awareness, and fostering a bigger connection to the world around you. And finally, practical self care. This form of self care focuses on maintaining a healthy work life balance and ensuring that job is important, but that there's also other things that you need to do to ward off stress. This could include things like doing the laundry, cleaning up a small area of your house, balancing your budget, all the things that you need to carry on your activities of daily living without major stress. So, what I like to do is to designate each day of the week as one of the categories of self care. So, Monday could be mental self care, Tuesday could be social self care, and so on. When I get to Sunday, I just repeat one of the categories of self care that seems the most important for me to tend to, or one that I enjoyed a lot that week. Also, I like to write down at least two ideas for self care in each of the categories. And I'll try the activities out. Afterwards, I'll rate my enjoyment on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most enjoyable. If anything is below a 3, you should toss it out and put something else on the list. Over time, this will become super natural to you, but give yourself some time because for a habit to form and to feel like it's part of your daily routine, it could take about 3 to 4 weeks for it to feel easier for you. So keep at it and you will be on your way to reducing the impacts of burnout. Thank you so much for tuning in. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss an update. And leave a comment about what you think I should talk about next or any of your burning questions about burnout.